Welcome. This is a short video introducing you to UCSD's data science machine learning platform called DataHub, or more simply, DataHub as we'll refer to it. Now when you go to the login website, that's datahub.ucsd.edu as I have here, you can find the large login button likely above my head right here, and we can click to log in, and it'll direct you through a login through Google and then through your single sign-on UCSD account. And when you get there, you'll end up at a page like this for the first time, where you get to select your course environment. Now I have a few different courses that I'm teaching here or that I have access to. I'm going to select one of those, and notice that this one here has RStudio as part of its environment setup, and you can request that in your CInfo document that you would send when you request any kind of computational information here. If you don't have that, you'll likely have your IPython or Jupyter notebook environment, and we'll play with both of those. So I'm selecting that and clicking on start. It'll begin to fire up that little VM or virtual machine, and you'll be taken to this DataHub kind of server landing page. So this is our server that's running. If you look at your URL box, you'll see that it's got your user, your username here, and it'll show your droppings from previous times you've used it. I used it a little while ago and made this test class that you could revisit those files for. But the key thing here when we're starting is to note these things right up here above my head, if you will. There's the control panel, there's a log out. We'll use the control panel a little bit later to shut down the server. Well, let's just click on it for a minute. Here you can see stop my server or go back to my server. So that's my server that we're back on here. And you would click that red button when you're all done. But how to launch new notebooks, new RStudio server kind of sessions and whatnot is under this new button here, if you see that. So I'm going to click new and look at the different options that we have. So here we can launch a terminal, for example, and pull up a pretty dumb, not very exciting Unix, in this case bash shell terminal. I'm going to go back here. You see, notice it's on my tabs here. I'm just going to close that terminal up, and I'm going to do something a little bit more interesting. I'm going to start RStudio, and this will take a little moment, and with fingers crossed, and if the server isn't too busy, it says there's a previous session running that terminated because it crashed. And I'm going to say, fine, let's go and start a new project here. New directory, new project the way you normally would. I'm going to call this test video and click create. And then we should have a brand new RStudio project all set up and ready to go. And we'll play with it just for a moment. We can make the font a little bigger with your Command plus or whatnot, so we can see it here. So here's our regular R prompt, and you can do things like you normally would. Let's just plot a silly plot. Okay, and we're a bit zoomed in, so it's a bit small, but there's our typical plot. We can launch or open new files, etc. So for example, let's do an R Markdown document, and we'll just call this test. And so here's my R Markdown document. Again, let's zoom in a little bit. We could knit this document, save it, and off we go. This will be one thing that you'll face too. It's trying to open. This is my web browser, nothing to do with the DataHub here. But you click again, then we'll open your page, your rendered document, your knitted document, so to speak here. So another thing to note just before we close this short video is that this is running on a Linux VM, and when you go to install packages, let's go up here. We'll do this at the terminal, of course. Let me clear it. So here I'm going to do install packages, and let's just pick let's do something that requires. So normally if you did this on your Mac or your PC, it would go off and it would get the binary package, and it wouldn't show you this kind of text that we see here where it's installing from source, because there's C++ code in this package, and it's going and having to then install it. It's not a binary package that we're installing. So you're going to have to be a little bit more patient when you install certain packages, such as these ones, or bioconductor packages and the like. It can take a substantial amount of time. So build that into your instructional framework, if you will, that you're going to have to work through this installation step. So, other packages, like if we install the tidyverse here in a moment, when this one finishes, will not require that as that delay. But generally, we're going to have to just sit and twiddle our fingers and wait until these things install. Once they're installed, they'll be there for you next time in your local R package directory that you'll have, as we'll see in a minute. So now I can do library, the name of this package, for example, and off we go and do things that you might want to do with biology here, like we would. If we want to go and install the tidyverse, let's try that. So install the packages, and we can even try and spell it correctly. And again, notice that it's the x86, 64 Linux, so it's going off and getting the source versions of these packages and installing them. This one didn't take so long, but notice here it's source. It's not the binary version where you would get that more instant installation if you had the binary from before. So here I have also set up Git. Git is installed and available. You can do that when you do your new project, for example, or you can add version control to these things. We'll maybe do a separate video for that, and on how to sync students' work to GitHub and back to their own computers. That's something that I do in my classes. That's one of the learning objectives, is to learn about version control systems. But perhaps that's not your focus here. What I do want to show you then is when we're back on our server tab, we can again go to the control panel. You'll see that there's a stop my server button. So that's what you would need to do, back to the server control panel, to shut. If we just shut or accidentally close the tab that's running our RStudio here, we can always go back to it, right? When we click new RStudio, that'll go back to that existing session that we have open, and that RStudio server is there with all our commands from the past. If we look at our history with the up arrow key here, but it's still running, right? Just closing the tab does not stop that RStudio instance, and it does not stop, of course, the server that's running. So to do that, we really do need to go here and be disciplined about it and stop my server, so we're not using resources we don't need. And we click stop my server, and eventually this thing will disappear, that button, to know that we don't have any servers running here in this case. And we can then, of course, log out as you normally would, and we're back to the login page. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope this was useful, just for getting very quickly started, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.